Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. It's that time of year where we all make videos or talk about some of the best purchases we made over the last year. 2020 has been rough. I'll talk a little bit more about that in another video that I'm going to post about what I'd like to get in 2021 when it comes to books and all that stuff. It'll be a little different this year when it comes to the want list of the following year, of the next year and all that stuff. So stay tuned. But like I was saying, this year was kind of rough for a lot of us. But I think for some of us, we tried to press on with our hobbies, trying to go about life the best way we could and make the best of it. So I'm going to present to you my top purchases. This year, like I was just saying, was a little tough. So there's nothing really stellar, super spectacular when it comes to purchases. A lot of good ones, but nothing epic like an Amazing Fantasy 15 or anything like that. Like in 2018 and even in 2019, I think I had some pretty big ones. But still got some pretty decent books to show off. And also this year was the release of 2 new video game systems, which I must admit, I was very fortunate enough to get. I know a lot of people were unable to get the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Somehow, as luck would have it, I was able to get both. And I talked about how I was able to get both in my unboxing videos. But that was, even though this is comic book related, I still think that that's a very much part of my collecting, because I do collect games as well, as you can tell. But let's get to the books. At number 10, we have Shock Suspenstories number 17. Now, why is Shock Suspenstories considered, number 17, considered one of the big top purchases of 2020? Other than its cool cover, and it is a cool cover, it's not really anything spectacular when it comes to the EC library. It's spectacular and special for me because this used to be part of Johnny Craig's personal collection. And here's the certificate of authenticity right here. So even though it's not a Johnny Craig cover or anything like that, I hope to one day have a Johnny Craig personal collection book where he actually drew the cover. But for now, this is cool enough. And like I said, I put this in my top 10. It's at number 10 because just to have a book from one of my favorite artists actually in my collection now, his own personal file copy, I find that to be amazing. And I think it's worthy to be on my top 10 list. So we move to number 9. We have another EC book. I've been heavily getting into ECs over the last few years. And I was able to upgrade quite a few of them this past year. So even though a lot of them are not going to be seen in this top 10, but it's still pretty important that I was able to even upgrade some of these ECs. But anyway, here's one. Tales from the Crypt number 27. I had maybe a 2.5 copy that I had sold, I think, a couple of years ago. All right, I sold it without replacing it, and that's something I usually don't like to do, but I have done in the past. So it took me a couple of years to get this, I would say probably 4.5, maybe even a 5.0 copy. Great Wally Wood cover. Okay, it's got a date stamp of sorts, September 21st at delivered at PM. A lot of my Tales from the Crypt books, especially some of the ones that I've been able to upgrade this year, have date stamps. A majority of them have them on the back cover. But I've noticed that I've been getting quite a few date stamp books, which if you would have watched some of my videos when I first started making haul videos, I would have said, oh, there's no way I'd ever get a date stamp. I think it's damaging to the cover and all that. Well, I even made a video about date stamps, I think, either sometime early this year or last year, where my mind has definitely changed on that. I think I've grown to appreciate date stamps on books. So that was number 9. Number 8, another EC. Even though it's a low grade, it's a nice looking low grade. This is probably one of the books I intend to upgrade down the line. I'm not saying for 2021, but down the line. This one just happened to, I don't want to say necessarily fell into my lap, because it didn't, but it's something that I just came across and I said, oh, the price is pretty good and it looks pretty good despite the 2.5 grade. I'll get it. And down the line, maybe I'll upgrade it or not. But I think I will upgrade it down the line. But nevertheless, at number 8 comes the classic hanging cover. I know this one right here, Crime Suspense Stories 20, is very infamous for this cover, one of the more infamous hanging covers from EC. I personally think there are better hanging covers, but I can understand why people like that one so much. And I think, let me just double check here. Yeah, this was used, it says right here in the notes, used in SOTI, which is the Seduction of the Innocent trial in the 1950s, which eventually led to the death of EC Comics, more or less. All right, that was number 8. Here we have number 7. Now we're finally getting to some superhero books, and we'll have a few more on this list. Number 7, right? X-Men number 3. I managed to upgrade this one to a 5.0, and I think I've told this story in a video, I don't remember which one, about my original X-Men 3. I did the restoration to it when I first got it back in 1993, and I had the restoration removed, so it's still a nice looking book, but I was planning to upgrade that anyway, and I was lucky enough to upgrade it to a 5.0 this year. I thought that the price, I bought this on, I think it was Metropolis and Comic Connect, you know how they're the same, but I believe I bought it from the Metropolis site. Anyway, I saw this one as I was cruising through dozens of X-Men 3 books in 5.0 range, 6.0 range, 4.5 range. There were so many of them in those grades. X-Men 3 is not a rare book. But I saw one in the 5.0 range, and like I said, there were many in the 5.0 range, generally around the same price in that range, usually maybe $50 less or $20 more, something like that. This one was a couple $100 less. It was that much of a difference. And I thought to myself, there's got to be something wrong with this book. Maybe it's a purple label and I'm just not seeing it. Something like that. So I made sure I really took a good look at the book and all that stuff, read the description, because sometimes when we see something that's too good to be true, it usually is. Or sometimes when we see things that are too good to be true, our minds believe it's really good and you got to move on it. But I did take my time just looking at it, making sure everything was okay with it. The grader notes, all that stuff. And no, it totally legit. So I bought it, and that was the end of that. Here we have, I believe we're at what is it, number 6, right? Yeah, we're at number 6. This was a book that I upgraded earlier in the year, and it's a slight upgrade, but anyway, I think it's a good one. 4.0 copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 15. This is the first appearance of Kraven the Hunter. Now, this one would be much higher, I think. I think it would be much higher if it didn't have that. And I talked about it in the video. You can't really see it because of the glare, but now maybe you can see a little bit. There's a stain, a water stain, and it goes through the whole book in that corner and exits out in the back of the book. I think if it didn't have that stain, the grade would be much higher because the rest of the book is very nice. A couple creases here and there, but no tears. The spine looks very beautiful, the background and all that, as maybe you can see slightly. Very nice looking book, but that stain really, dinged the grade. But for me, 4.0 in early Spider-Mans and real early X-Men's, I'm talking like 1 through 5, maybe 1 through 6. 4.0s are perfectly acceptable because they are expensive. They become more expensive, and especially early Spider-Mans that are debuting all these villains, like Kraven the Hunter, Dr. Octopus, the Sandman. They're a lot harder to pay for because they become very expensive in this grade and a little higher. So I was pretty happy to get a 4.0. I originally had, I think, a 2.0, maybe a 2.5. And I sold that one off probably a year ago, and used most of that money to get that one. All right, that was number 6, right? Okay, we're at number 5. I still got to look at my list here. We have, this is actually an upgrade. Iron Man 55, First Appearance of Thanos, First Appearance of Drax the Destroyer, and a whole bunch of other characters, okay? Nice 8.5 copy. My original was a raw 7.0, or at least I believed it to be a 7.0. It could have used the press. It might have went up to a 7.5, maybe. But anyway, I sold that one off a couple years ago to put toward getting my Incredible Hulk #1. And I sold it off because I figured, well, now's the best time to sell it, which it was, because, it was right before the Avengers Infinity War movie, and I kind of figured after both of those, after the Avengers movies, Infinity War and the one that came out the following year, which was Endgame, Thanos would probably start going down in value, which he did. So I thought that time was the best time to sell it, and I figured I'd get it again one day. And I did. And I was able to get a nice CGC 8.5 copy. And I was very happy to have that. I like Thanos. I like having this book in my collection. So that's why I decided to get it again, but at a better time. Okay. At number 4 now. Now we're in the top 4. We're in the top 5, but now we're going to number 4. Here's a book. Now, this book was actually upgraded. Okay, this is not the original one that I showed off earlier in the year. I think I showed this book off in the February haul, whatever number that was. I don't remember. But since then, I have upgraded it and sold the other one off. I mean, and it's not a very easy book to find. But here we have another EC. Crypt of Terror number 18. This is a solid 4.5 copy. And it's not ultra high grade or anything like that, or high grade for that matter. Almost mid grade, but not quite there. But it's a very, very nice book. Very nice. And much nicer than the 2.0 or 2.5 copy I had. Like I said, I sold that one off, and it sold very quickly. Because it's not an easy book to find. It really isn't. This book is not. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's rare by any means. But some of those ECs, especially the early ones in the run. This is an early Tales from the Crypt book. Okay, I know it's still called Crypt of Terror. It doesn't become Tales from the Crypt until issue 20. Not easy to find, and certainly not easy to pay for. Fortunately, this one landed in my lap, and the seller who was selling this had 2 other ECs that he wanted to, that he was looking to move. He's like, I only have 3 ECs. I've had these for a couple of years. He won these, I think, off a Heritage or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember what he said, but I know he obviously won them off some sort of site. He didn't buy them at the local comic book store or a comic book store. So he was looking to sell them. I purchased this one from him, and he says, hey, I got these 2 others, and would you be interested in them? And he told me what they were, and I said, yeah, I had those 2 copies that he was willing to sell, and they were going to be upgrades. So we worked out a deal, and I'll show those in a future video in 2021. But it's great. Sometimes, when you buy from somebody and you just talk to them for a little bit, you find out that they're selling more things that you want. Either you want to upgrade or you want to add to your collection for the first time. So, yeah, this led to other good things. So very happy to have that. We're at number 3 now. This was an upgrade. It's from a copy I had since 1993. That copy of this book I'm about to show that was in my original collection was really low grade. I think it was a 0.5, actually. Well, I think I managed to upgrade to a 3.5 copy. It looks better than a 3.5, but it does have a spine split, okay? So that, I think it really damages the grade. But other than that, it's a really nice book. Cover, aside from the little spine split here, firmly attached, very nice. It was a little dirty when I got it, but I cleaned it, so it looks whiter than it previously was. Back cover, same thing, but everything else checks out very well with this. Very solid, nice 3.5 copy of Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1, first appearance of the team, the Sinister Six. I know this book has been getting some interest over the last year. there are rumors, and there's always rumors, right? Of, there's going to be a Sinister Six and all that stuff. But regardless of whether Sinister Six shows up in a movie or whatever, the book, no, I don't think anybody could deny having Amazing Spider-Man Annual. I don't think anybody could deny that that's not a good book. It's a great book to have. Great book to have. First gathering of a major Spider-Man villain team. It's definitely something that's worth having in your collection, rumors or not, movies or not. Number 2, we're getting down to it now. And this was another slight upgrade, okay? Much like the Iron Man 55 that was on this list. But here we have, at number 2, for 2020, Journey into Mystery number 85. This is the first appearance of Loki, Odin, Asgard, Heimdall, I think the Rainbow Road, Bifrost, Rainbow Road, Bifrost, whatever it is, all that stuff. I had a CBCS 3.0 copy, and it was an ugly 3.0 copy. So I sold that off a couple of years ago, again for the Hulk, right? Same thing with the Iron Man 55. And I said, I'll eventually get this again. And I did, obviously. It's here right now. I managed to get a CGC 3.5. I think it looks like a 4.0, but again, I'm not an expert grader. I'm sure the graders see a 3.5 where I don't see it. But regardless, I was just happy to bring the book back into my collection, a nicer looking version, a nicer looking copy of Journey into Mystery 85. And I was happy to get a CGC. I prefer CGC. This is not an insult to anybody that goes to CBCS or has a bunch of CBCS books. But I just prefer CGC at this point. So I was happy to get that in a CGC slab. And the number 1 book that I was able to purchase this year, this book has been on a couple of want lists. So it took me a couple of times to search for the right copy for this book, and I was happy I was able to bring it into the collection for the first time. It's not an upgrade, it's not a book I've ever had before, but I was able to bring this book into my collection for the first time. Very happy with this copy. Here we have Amazing Spider-Man number 2, the first appearance of the Vulture and first appearance of the Tinkerer. Like I said, this was a book I was trying to bring into my collection. I've never owned it, so it's not an upgrade of any type. I know there's quite a few upgrades in this top 10 that I showed you, but it was finally nice to bring this. It was nice to bring this into my collection for the first time. I wanted to bring this in for several years. I first attempted to bring this into my collection back in 1996, and that deal fell through. And then several years later, I tried to bring it into my collection in 2018. My goal when I went to the Heroes Con in 2018, where I met up with Patrick and Mike, and I met a few other people, my goal was to get Amazing Spider-Man number 2. That was the year I bought Amazing Fantasy 15. I was upgrading a couple other Spider-Man books, like Amazing Spider-Man number 9. And a few others that escaped me. I think I brought in Amazing Spider-Man number 5. I brought in Amazing Spider-Man number 6. So I was really on I upgraded my Amazing Spider-Man number 3. So I was really, on a Spider-Man kick. So I said, well, now it's time to get number 2. I decided to delay that, and I went for the Fantastic Four number 5, which I think was a better choice. Even though my Fantastic Four 5 is I think it's a 2.0, low-grade copy. It was still, I think, a much better buy at that time for what it went for compared to what it goes for right now than Amazing Spider-Man 2. But I still wanted to try to make Amazing Spider-Man 2 happen. It didn't happen that year, and it certainly didn't happen in 2019, but in around Easter, I believe, of this year, I was finally able to make it happen. And I'm very happy to have this book in my collection. It's a nice copy. I mean, it's not a 6.0 or a 5.0 or anything like that. We all have different opinions on what a nice copy is, but it's a lower grade copy. Probably, maybe, I forget what I didn't mark it. I usually mark my books. I usually put it over here. I didn't mark it, but I think it's at least maybe a 3.5, maybe even a 4.0. But regardless, very nice book. Very happy to have it. Finally added to my collection after several years of delays or trying to get it or just putting it on the shelf. So I'd be very interested in hearing what are some of the top books that you were able to get in 2020. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I know 2020 has been rough on a lot of people, so maybe some of your buying wasn't what it was in previous years. That's totally understandable, but you don't always have to show an Amazing Fantasy 15 or an Amazing Spider-Man 1 or an X-Men #1 to have a good year. There are other books out there and other things, quite frankly, that could make your collecting, your hobby collecting, a good year for you. So I'd be interested in hearing. Thank you all for watching. Take care.